Lost and Found Story, A Window Table, a double feature podcast episode written and narrated by Robert Fairhead from the Tall and True writers' website. A Window Table, a short story written and narrated by Robert Fairhead. The sign at the front desk of the restaurant was emphatic. Wait to be seated. No please or thank you. Bernie and his date, Sally, glanced at each other in awkward silence.
Yes?
A gruff voice boomed from a speaker on the desk.
Do you have a booking?
Bernie stared into the webcam taped to the speaker. Table for two, in the name of Bernie, he responded.
Okay, grab a table. I'll be there shortly.
Bernie and Sally exchanged nervous smiles, struck motionless with indecision, but they didn't need to negotiate a labyrinth to find a table. There were no other diners seated in the restaurant. Shall we sit near a window? Bernie asked. Sally nodded, and they chose a table beside the only window, looking out to a dimly lit lane and the dark silhouette of a neighbouring building. A door at the rear of the restaurant swung open, and a sweaty waiter wearing a food-stained apron appeared. "Here's the menu," he boomed, as if through the speaker, tossing a menu on the table. "I'll be back for your order." Drinks?" Bernie quizzed hesitantly. "It's BYO," the waiter called back, slamming shut the door and muffling the kitchen clatter of pots crashing and plates smashing. Sally raised an eyebrow. "I don't understand," Bernie said, bewildered. "This place has good reviews." Ignoring the menu on the table, Sally unfolded a napkin and polished her spoon. "Have we been here before?" she asked, eyeing Bernie suspiciously. He sighed. The dating app simulation was playing out disastrously. "Stop," Bernie commanded the app, and reset with a 5-star restaurant. The scene phased out momentarily before Bernie and Sally, whom he'd selected from the app's singles database, rematerialised at the front desk. The sign now requested, "Please wait to be seated. Thank you." "That's friendlier," thought Bernie, commanding the app to play. "Bernie and Sally, it's so nice to see you," greeted the transformed, smartly dressed and open-armed waiter. "I've saved your table for you," he said, escorting them to a window table with views of a bright, busy nightlife district. "Better than the gloomy lane, huh?" Bernie commented, and Sally gave him a puzzled look. "Sorry, I'm thinking of another time and place," he reassured her. The waiter's sudden return saved Bernie from further explanation. "I've opened your favourite wine," he said, beaming and pouring a taster for Bernie before filling his and Sally's glasses and handing them menus. The waiter retreated, and Bernie clinked Sally's glass. "This is more like it," he said, smiling and sipping his wine. But Sally set down her glass and asked, "Have we been here before?" And Bernie groaned, "Ugh," and commanded the app to stop. Too gruff, too friendly, too curious. Bernie had never been able to recapture the simplicity and euphoria of his first dating app simulations. He removed the virtual reality headset. It would be microwaved frozen dinner for one again tonight, and Bernie's home restaurant had no window table. The Lost and Found Story, a blog post written and narrated by Robert Fairhead. I once wrote a short story titled The Lost Hour that opens, "You know what it's like when you lose something. It's always in the last place you look. But how do you find a lost hour? It's not like it can slip down the back of a sofa, like coins or keys." Like my protagonist, I've lost a few things over the years, but I never imagined losing a story. I only realised I'd lost the short story when I started working on a blog post to mark my 4th anniversary of Furious Fictions. I wrote my first story for the Australian Writers' Centre's 500-word challenge in April 2020 and my 42nd in March 2024. During these 4 years, I've written 37 official entries and 5 unofficial stories, 3 to satisfy my monthly fix when the challenge briefly shifted to quarterly in 2022, and 2 when I was on holiday and wrote later. I've also shared my short stories on Tall and True and narrated them for Tall and True short reads. However, when I listed my Furious Fiction stories chronologically, there were only 41 titles, and August 2023's was missing. Thankfully, I found a copy of the story on my computer, though I didn't recognise the plot or characters when I read it. The mystery deepened when I looked in my Writers' Centre email folder. There were submission confirmations for every Furious Fiction except between July and September 2023. That is, August. I'd found a lost short story I hadn't shared on Tall and True, didn't recall writing, and possibly hadn't submitted to the Furious Fiction Challenge. When my memory fails me, I check my diary. I've kept daily diaries and travel journals since 1987. I found 2 relevant entries for the weekend of August's Furious Fiction. Saturday 6th, got stuck into my Furious Fiction short story, which grew into something quite unexpected, a virtual reality dating app simulation. Wrote the first third of the story, know where I'm going with the second, and I'm confident the final third will fall into place. Sunday 7th, the words flowed well with the draft story, whose title occurred to me towards the end, A Window Table, perfect for its restaurant setting. A line in my third part pulled the story together, too gruff, too friendly, too curious. So I didn't have to labour over the ending. But of course, the first draft and edits were only the first of many edits and revisions late into the night. My diary entries for August also reflect my deepening commitment to campaigning for a yes vote for the Indigenous voice to Parliament, culminating in the referendum held in Australia in October 2023. I reflected on this in the 3-part short story I shared on Tall and True Short Reads, Some Things Change, and a companion blog post on Tall and True, Some Things Change, Some Stay the Same. Other priorities in writing must have swamped my short story, but now that my August 2023 Furious Fiction has resurfaced, I can share it on Tall and True and Tall and True Short Reads. And because A Window Table takes place in a restaurant, it's only fair I include a tip, this blog post, about how I lost and found the story. Hi, I'm Robert Fairhead from Tall and True Short Reads and the Tall and True Writers website. I wrote A Window Table in August 2023 for the Australian Writers Centre's monthly Furious Fiction Writing Challenge. The brief was, the story had to take place in a restaurant, include a character who smashes something, and the words Euphoria, Labyrinth, and Silhouette. There are always stories behind my short stories, but the one for A Window Table is the most mysterious, because, as I wrote in the Lost and Found Story blog post, I lost the story for 6 months. I eventually found a copy of A Window Table, but when I read it, I didn't recognise the plot or characters. Reading a story I knew must be mine, but felt like someone else had written it, was weird. But the DNA proof that I'd written A Window Table was the restaurant in the first part of the story. I based it on a restaurant I booked for a date in my early 20s, 40 years ago, that also didn't live up to its good reviews. I hope you enjoyed this double feature, the Lost and Found story, A Window Table. You can read the blog post and short story, along with my other posts, stories and writings at tallandtrue.com. You can also buy my short story collections, including the latest Tall and True Microfiction Anthology, from the Amazon Kindle, Apple Books and Kobo online bookstores. Links are available in the show notes. The next episode of Tall and True Short Reads will be released soon. In the meantime, please check your feed or the podcast website, tallandtrueshortreads.com, for earlier episodes from all 4 seasons. And follow or subscribe to the podcast and rate and review it via your favourite podcasting app. Doing so helps share my storytelling. You can support the podcast financially by making a small one-off or regular donation via the Acast supporter page. You'll find a link in the show notes. Finally, please share this episode with family and friends and spread the word about Tall and True Short Reads and the Tall and True Writers website.